This is the North End. This is the North End.
Welcome to the North End YouTube channel. It is our transfer deadline special, as well as we are also going to review last week's results. I am blessed with, of course, Mr. David Convery and Mr. Paul Forrest. Connie, my friend, how are you, sir? It was a bit of a dud of a day to some extent, but a good window, which we'll get into, obviously. How you feeling today, post the window shutting as it did?
I mean, I'm a Manchester United fan. Paul's a Manchester United fan. We have Cristiano Ronaldo. How do you think I feel? I'm ecstatic. Don't get me wrong. I think, as a United fan, there's some holes in the team. But, yeah, I thought it was a great window. A lot of interesting signings, some departures. But, really looking forward to chatting about it.
Yeah, for sure. It was not an amazing day, but like I said, a good window for some. And I would imagine you guys, as United fans, that it was similar to what Bale coming back for Spurs last season was like in a similar scenario. So we'll see how it pans out. Hopefully better than Bale did for us. Paul, thoughts? How you doing, buddy? You all right today?
Good, man. I'm great. I'm awesome. It was a beautiful day here in Toronto. I gotta say, this was probably the craziest transfer window I've ever seen in my history of really paying attention to this stuff. Not to say there haven't been bigger deals, but to have this many deals, particularly into the Premier League with great additions to a league I love watching. But it was a bit of a fizzle at the end, like big show, like Broadway style showcases all across the board. And then the final day, it was like, yeah, there was like no real rumors. There was no hot, it won't hit. Like it was a bit of a fizzle. Last year we signed Cavani, like the 11th hour was a Cavani signing for Man United, and that came out of nowhere. And that was just an example of like a few different signings that happened last year. But this year, I think like deadline day today for me, Sal Niguez is probably the biggest transfer that happened today. And even that was like, it seemed like that was a rumor that was 2 months in the making.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It was like one of the best windows, but over a period of time. It's interesting when you watch these Sky Sports sort of live transfer window shows. You'd think they have better content with like to fill in the gaps, when there's nothing happening. It's just them like talking for a bit. I had it on YouTube for a little bit. They're talking for a bit and they're kind of talking shit, and then you realize that like we don't really have anything interesting to say right now. Go to a commercial, and they've got this like on YouTube, and then like the last hour of the transfer deadline day, like their yellow screen. We'll be right back.
They do a good job. What they do what the British press do. They're trying to build drama.
I know, but there wasn't any to build.
They were trying to create some stuff outside of the Premier League. Like they were trying to create a lot of Mbappe drama. The Griezmann thing today was pretty crazy.
True. Yeah.
Doesn't pertain to the Premier League, but suffice to say, that Griezmann move today, that's probably the biggest move of the day. It's just not Premier League related, right?
Yeah, I guess
is that final? Did that cross the line officially?
I think so. Yeah. And that's just a salary dump for Barcelona, right? Like they're dumping salary. There's guys that took pay cuts just so they could register the team. So I mean, yeah. A big final weekend, I would say. We could say that.
I think that's the way to put it for sure. Paul, do you want to get? What do we want to get into? You want me to bring up that slate and have a chat about what players have come and gone?
Yeah, I mean, if it's closed, we might as well just close it out with like
it's 6:10. So yeah, like 10 minutes ago it's official. Right?
Uninteresting final day, but again, in summary, a hell of a window as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
So let's throw it up on screen.
All right, so this is the on the moves that we've seen so far this window. Paul, I'll let you go through it, and then we can sort of comment as we do.
Yeah, what can we really say? Like we're gonna have a full like on Thursday. We're gonna get into what we think of the overall window and kind of evaluate it by team. And I think we'll probably do some sort of exercise of grading the teams. But like as a league, this has been an A++. Crazy plus.
Oh yeah.
Like transfer window. Like this is the list of star, I would say star players. Like a lot of players here, like Kabak, Edward, like you may not think of them as being stars, but they're fucking quality and have been rumored to be going around the league to different leagues for years. Like this is the full list of players that I think are going to be going to the Premier League that we can all be like really excited about, because the talent pool here is insane. And for the Premier League to have this draw that and for various reasons, finances probably being a huge part of it. Like this is a huge injection of talent into the Premier League. A plus plus to the Premier League. Without a doubt.
Look at the names. Like this summer window was the defiant moment that Serie A, La Liga, the Bundesliga, like there's such a gap between the Premier League and every other league. This is the place to be. You had Cristiano Ronaldo, like Lukaku. This was bananas. And I think this cemented that the gap of where players want to play and the gap of quality of teams in the Premier League next to everybody else has just gotten bigger and bigger. If this window doesn't make that clear to everybody, I don't know what you're watching.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some obvious standouts, the Ronaldos of the world, the Lukakus, even Romero at Spurs is a big one. There's a few that are, I think, a little sort of underwhelming to some extent as well. Over and above sort of those big ones, anybody in particular you think that came into the Premier League, it stands out for you guys?
So it's tricky. Sal Niguez, to me, to have a fourth midfield player in that Chelsea midfield of that quality,
it's the one I was thinking of.
Is like that's kind of like a victory lap. Like you're fucking you're laughing a bit there. Famously, I think everybody's kind of question marked their defense, although statistically they're fucking stellar at the back.
It's not really valid, is it?
It's almost like you're judging based on reputation, not performance. Which is, that's gonna nip you in the bud, especially when they're the champions of Europe. They did well enough with their defense that they have now to do that. So I think Sal Niguez is a really interesting signing. There are players that are new to the Premier League that are, I think, the kind of players that we're gonna know their names pretty soon. Like Daka is a guy who went to Leicester. We're not going to see him for, probably not for a few months, really like break into that lineup. But he's a guy whose highlight reel I was watching before, like when he was at RB Leipzig, I think it was, just killing it. Like just he's going to be good. So there's a guy like Daka I'm very excited to seeing. Bailey looks like he's going to be a really exciting player to watch. But you have the big boy names, like the real like injection of top class quality. I think Sal Niguez is one of the ones where I'm like, that's impressive piece of business, and it's a loan, like just as a piece of business.
Yeah, it's good business for sure.
Lukaku is a huge star, like that's the thing that's gonna push him towards that's the big step forward they've made. But this like little nudge forward with a lone player like Sal Niguez, that's where I'm probably like maybe the most jealous of the business. Yeah. Outside of obviously United did very well this window, so I can't really say too much about that.
Let's talk about. Well, go ahead, Connie.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I kind of want to call it out because it's interesting, right? Like you've got guys like Lukaku, like Ronaldo, Varane, and Sancho that are coming from different leagues into the Premier League. I don't even care if it's Ronaldo or Lukaku. Like you still might see with some of these massive names in world football that adjustment period to the quality of the Premier League. Like, can Ronaldo come back and do it? I watched Jadon Sancho the other day. He's not up to Premier League snuff right now. It's in that adaptation that we always talk about here. You're likely to see that. Like Lukaku, this isn't Serie A. You're not going to bang in 25 goals for fun. Like he might have some struggles. So, I mean, for me, my interesting thing with the names coming into the league is to see who can get up to speed the quickest. Varane looked like he wasn't having any problems the other day. But
he looked comfortable, actually. Yeah, very comfortable for sure.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Brian?
Well, I just wanted to talk about the spending because I think this is it's an interesting one. Paul was talking about sorry, what was his name? Sal Niguez. It's like loan deals are obviously quite useful for teams right now, especially in the Prem, especially post COVID. It's cheaper, it's easier to manage moving forward. So bringing in those players that sort of suit that business model or quality. There's certain teams that have spent a ton of money. We look at Arsenal, obviously, who clearly need it. I think they've probably spent the most this season in the transfer window, and whether it's spent well or not, we'll see. They apparently, sorry, just to interrupt, Brian Daigle says Tomiyasu is a confirmed Gooner. So a player like that who Spurs we're looking at for some time. I think he's a bit overrated if I look at the statistics that I've seen from him, especially compared to what we actually brought in was Emerson Royale. The spending that we've seen this window, for certain players, is it what you guys expected? Is it like this post-COVID market? It's a bit less, but it's just a bit smarter. You see a lot more loans, you see a lot more sort of paying over periods of time. What are you guys' thoughts on the amount being spent?
The big teams are always going to be able to do it. They generate commercial revenue that those other teams just don't come. It's not that they don't come close. They don't come anywhere near close. Like Chelsea has a good corporate structure. Manchester United have good, like Man City, like $100 million for Grealish. Is Grealish £100 million player? No, he's probably not. But they have the money, so there's always going to be that separation. Like Arsenal have money to spend. They have the most expensive ticket in the league. Am I surprised they spent that amount of money? Do I think it's a ton of money for them? Not really. But like your West Ham's, that Kurt Zuma deal, that probably was like all of their budget and some. You know what I mean? Like these teams that don't generate that revenue, they're literally trying to strap deals together. It's just different for the commercially, not the better teams. Like we would all agree, Leicester's a better team than Arsenal right now, but Arsenal have more buying power, and it's been that way for a while in the EPL, and I think it'll continue to be that way.
Definitely. Paul, thoughts on net spend, how the window is panned out? What are your thoughts on it?
75 to 100 is probably what you should spend for one of the best players on the planet. A Premier League player should cost probably about 20 to 30 to be a good Premier League player, not even like a light the world on fire. Like Dan James went for 30, and he's a very good fit for Leeds, but he was a bit bar player at Man United, and he still cost them 30, and that's probably not wrong either. So once you get past the 30-40 mark, I think that's when the caliber of player you're buying starts to really has to jump levels. So I haven't been too surprised by a lot of the pricing. Like, we could look over it pretty easily, but Sancho costs 75 to 80, and that's a lot for a guy who's got no Premier League experience, and he's 21. He's only been playing in the Bundesliga, which, all respect to that league, is still very much a farmer's league. Which is, I recognize that I just had very much like respect and then insulted them.
They're
right away.
agricultural.
But you were right though. But you're right though.
Agricultural workers, Paul. Let's keep it PC here.
Right.
But it's
Whereas
true, though.
a Lukaku is like, and I would say this, like spending the money that Lukaku would cost, like 25 million more than a Sancho, is probably right. But Sancho last year would have cost 100 million for wildly crazy reasons. And then I look at Lukaku and go, is 100 million really right for him? And I'm like, yeah, that's where I start to get a little bit uncomfortable. I feel like, since when did a striker who's not going to score 50 cost 100 million?
Can I tell you why?
Crazy price.
Chelsea are the current Champions League winners, and they had one, in my personal opinion, and many share this, they have one area on their field and on their team where they needed massive improvement, and that's at striker. And you could argue right now, when it comes to strikers, Lukaku's top 3 or 4 in the world, by some people's opinion, not necessarily mine.
I think it's accurate.
And that's what that would cost. Lukaku would cost any team 100. It's the market, right? There's not that many proven goal scorers, and he's one of them, and they needed it.
But I still have kind of fundamental issues with the market. Like, the market was never 100 million for a player. That was introduced when Paris Saint-Germain went fucking crazy.
Agreed.
And they set the new market price. But, like, I kind of hope this window would be a little bit returned to normal. Like, let's get our head around manageable numbers. Like, this has been too crazy for too long. Like Mbappe, as an example, who didn't go to Real Madrid, even though his contract is over in January and he can sign for free. You had PSG say no to 180 million reported. Like that's crazy that there are clubs who can just say no casually to 180 million to keep a player for what amounts to
Whoa. I get the sentiment of what you're saying, but that's one of 2 teams on the planet that can say no because they don't need the money. But you're making a great point, if I circumnavigate it a little bit. Like, Mbappe, 180 million? Like, is Mbappe top 5 player in the world? No, and I honestly think
he's overrated.
Exactly. So I think it's more of a, it's almost like the real estate market, supply and demand, and you get these bidding wars, and it depends how badly the person wants to buy the house and how much money they're willing to spend, right? Real Madrid have an obsession with Kylian Mbappe. Perez has come out and said it. Haaland is going to be the same thing, but next or January, whatever, he's got that buyout clause, so it'll be his choice. I think there are about 5 or 6 players on the planet where, because of commercial reasons and their ability, those numbers get stupid. Mbappe's one of them, but he's not even. I don't even think I wouldn't pay 100 for him right now. Like, I think there's players that are much better than him. Harry Kane is for me twice the player. So he doesn't have the speed that Mbappe has. He's a better goal scorer and a better player.
He doesn't need it.
Exactly.
So let me ask like a different question, because it's always hard to, like, who are we to evaluate numbers? Like, supply and demand is, we don't know what the real demand is. We don't know what their budgets are. We don't really know those kind of like financials. It's always wild fan speculation. But who did we think was going to go that didn't? Because you mentioned Kane, so I'll top of the list and say him. Like, I was like pretty convinced this would be a summer where Kane would go, and it would be for an exorbitant, crazy amount. But there are a few other guys like Basuma and Neves that I thought had done enough at this stage of their career to warrant a move somewhere. It didn't have to be within the Premier League, but like somewhere. There's like a fairly significant list of guys who didn't move, which surprised me.
I think if just to chime in on the Kane point, and it sort of goes to some of those other players as well, is that it comes down to the contract that they currently had. I think Neves still has at least 2 years left on his contract as well. So it's not an easy move, and it's a Wolves team that is going to try to hold on to their best players, especially after losing Jota. And,
Neves was shopped. He was shopped around.
Yeah.
Well, he was shopped. Eh? Okay, so my mistake then. I actually thought that's surprising, because if I was Spurs, I would have picked him up in a second. I don't know why we didn't, because he's a perfect player, especially having played under Nuno. So, but when it comes to the Kane deal, Kane had 3 years left on his contract. That was an obvious. I had said from the very beginning he wasn't going to go this summer. I think it took a long time for people to realize that the control of that transfer or non-transfer was obviously in the clubs. The club had control over it, so they made a decision that they weren't going to sell him, no matter what number came in. And having said that, the number that came in for him wasn't nearly enough of the valuation that the club made for him. And that's the key in these situations that I think people have to realize, is that it's the club. The club dictates the price of the player. It's what their value is to them. And I think with Kane, the value to Kane was, he's priceless. We're not getting rid of him this season. If somebody wants to buy him next season and he signs a new contract with a clause in it like Grealish had, then maybe he'd go. But in regards to that situation, maybe that it pertains to some of the other players that have similar contracts that they didn't.
Harry Kane, well covered ground for a story that's a non-story. Was there any Spurs players that you were surprised didn't move in addition to Harry Kane?
Well, I thought Ndombele would go, but I also think that we priced him out. So he asked for a move and sat on it, and is still sitting on it, and now is going to be integrated back into the squad. We just saw Aurier is now asked for a transfer out of the club, or not even asked; he's terminated his contract. So we've seen that happen. If there's anybody else that I think if you look at Spurs outs, it was actually quite a few for a team with a ton of dead wood. Maybe Dele Alli I thought would have been a good asset to sell, except he had a really good preseason, so I think Nuno probably might have changed his mind on that. But not anybody in particular, I would say.
But doesn't it all change a little bit when you get a new manager? You know what I mean? You almost get like a second chance, right?
There's a second chance for sure. Yeah. There's a second chance, of course. I mean, I thought Gareth Bale might stay with Spurs, but of course that was sort of the wishful thinking in you that he might sign another, because we had the option to extend his loan, and that didn't happen. But we're missing that position now. We're missing a few goals in the team because we've lost him. So. If that's a disappointing. I also thought we might end up seeing Traore come to Spurs, where that's a
priced out.
Yeah, 50 million, which was too much money for him by far.
I was surprised that Jesse Lingard didn't move, and I was a little bit surprised that either Lacazette or Aubameyang didn't force some kind of move. Especially
Lacazette, because I think he has issues with with Arteta, if I'm not
Money,
mistaken.
money, boys. No one was going to match the salary that both of them are on at Arsenal right now. Like, I have another couple
That's the biggest
surprises
issue, isn't it? Yeah.
to kind of jump on what you're both saying. I thought, like, and Pep even said it when Grealish came in. I think they were trying to shop Bernardo Silva and a couple of other offensive players.
Bernardo Silva's asked to go a couple of times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's another player I thought I would have seen. I would have thought would have seen players leave City generally, like a few of them.
here's
They
the
didn't
thing,
do
though.
anything, did they, on the outs?
Here's the thing,
Just
though.
Aguero.
Yeah,
Aguero.
and
That's
you got
crazy.
you think about if it was any of us, right? If you're at a team and you're making a certain wage and somebody offers you this other option at another team, but you're literally going to make half the amount of money, you're probably not going to do it. I'm not saying, oh, football, go for the passion, but being a footballer is a short career, man. Like, you finish it like
Yeah, you want to make the money
mid-30s.
as much money as you can, right?
And I don't fault those guys. One thing I was shocked about, I did think Chelsea were going to pull the trigger on Jules Koundé, center back from Sevilla.
That's
thought
another
that,
one I'm surprised didn't happen as well. Yeah.
I thought they were going to push that, and apparently they got priced out of that. Apparently they offered 60, and Sevilla like, no, we want 70, which I was kind of shocked at as well. I was like, man, like, you don't know what's going to happen next season. This guy could be terrible or like tear up his knee. 60 mil for Sevilla is a lot. So,
yeah, it is, and especially in a league where they're struggling financially, you'd think they would just take that 60 mil and manage the financial situation they might be dealing with next season. So it's an odd one, absolutely.
Let me ask you guys one more thing before we move on to whatever. Were you guys shocked that Liverpool only signed one player, or was that all they needed in your opinion? Or are we jumping ahead to Thursday's show? Just tell me to stop.
Well, I was gonna ask this question next. It's a little bit of what we'll talk about on Thursday, but I think it's probably pretty fair. Another way to evaluate this window is like who was quiet, and I think Liverpool for me is the one that jumps out immediately as being a team that was like, really, like the one guy you signed is I would argue probably not your first choice center back right now. Like Matip is very trusted by Klopp. He does a really fine job in the center. He's probably going to get injured. He tends to do that, and then that's maybe Konate's chance to kind of slide in. But I
think that's what they were doing there, though, Paul. I mean,
striker.
But Jota's been performing in that position, and Jota and Firmino in that 9 or that false 9 that they're playing, they don't really need it, arguably, based on what we've seen so far. I think based on the injuries Liverpool had last season, that center half position, they got screwed when Van Dijk went down, and then of course they had more issues in that position. So it's a depth choice. But I agree, similar to City, Liverpool and City, neither of them did really basically fuck all. So
and they lost Wijnaldum and they lost Shaqiri too. So like those are two decent players. That Harvey Elliott kid looks good.
And not even just two decent players, two decent players that provided certain things for that team. Like when it came to points, Shaqiri off the bench scored some key goals in key games, and when Wijnaldum was just a workhorse in that position in behind the three, and you created a lot. Really, really solid player. So big. He'll be a big miss for them.
But here's the thing, though. Like, if you listen to Klopp's interview and you take him seriously, which he seems like he doesn't bullshit too much, he was pretty serious by saying we literally do not have the budget that these other teams have. Mm-hmm. So they're selective about who they buy. They're selective of who they sell. And let's be very fair to them. They've bought insanely well the last 5 seasons, and they've still got the crux of that team together. I think it's time to maybe start having the conversation next window that they're not a big player financially when it comes to that, or at least their ownership doesn't want them to be. But that's maybe a bigger conversation.
Absolutely.
I think it's very established. I don't think it's a conversation.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
every Liverpool fan on the planet knows the reason why they invested that one time very heavily is because somebody fucking got their pants pulled down on a deal with Barcelona.
Coutinho.
Without that money directly reinvested, and there's no evidence to suggest the owners just want to take that kind of money and put it they were comfortable with doing that because it was free money essentially that they could put into the team. That made total sense. That wasn't changing their business model and level of investment from the profits that they typically make. But Liverpool don't get run that way, and I think this is where it's going to be really interesting, because I think Klopp in a few years probably has already kind of started talking about maybe taking a break from management. I think there'll come a time where the reinvestment is needed in that organization, and he maybe won't feel the love or the support from the ownership, and that will be a changing of the guard. Probably at the same time, Pep is already talking about
Steven Gerrard's coming in, and
Steven Pep is already kind of laying the tracks for his exit in 2022.
2023, I think.
2023.
2022, 2023,
22,
somewhere around
23,
there.
the
But like
combo
he's
season.
already starting to talk about how he won't really be around for that.
Two
and
more
it's-
seasons. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting period because it's almost like the teams that invest smart now to be good or as possible better than everybody else in 3 years. It's almost, I've always kind of said this, like it's be better when Pep is planning on going and the Pep project is coming to a real natural dip, like that change that happens with management or their players are starting to age out, which is you can already start to see within that squad.
Yep.
And also the same kind of thing, although it'll happen faster with the Liverpool squad. The team that will be raring to go at their peak performance in 2 to 3 years, I think has an advantage that lasts them another 3 years on top of that. And it's just you can see these roadmaps starting to develop.
I don't think so. They Liverpool, I would say, if I'm a Liverpool fan, I think you've got one more season, maybe two at the top. And I say that specifically with regards to like Salah and Mane. Like other than Ronaldo and Messi, like it's very difficult to play at that peak level for a long period of time. If they can prove me wrong, it's just you could call that team a dynasty because even watching them on the weekend, they look fantastic. But they're not going to reinvest, and that's where I think, and I'm segueing.
But you're being a little needlessly contrary because I said those teams, Man City and Liverpool, and you're highlighting one of those two teams.
Yeah.
No, I'm not because here's the thing: like Man City will just buy their way out of trouble any window they want, whereas I don't think Liverpool.
No.
will.
Hang on. You can't buy your way out of trouble when Pep Guardiola leaves.
Yeah, you can, and they will.
You can't. Every manager goes in, and Pep Guardiola didn't just perform right off the bat. No manager will take over Pep
Guardiola.
Guardiola.
3 or 4 seasons to get to
Pep. Nobody does a Pep better than Pep. That squad is going to be 100% to the bone Pep Guardiola. So anybody that comes in that isn't him will have to have an adjustment period and will not be going to the races at the same level.
Can we send him Arteta? That'd be great.
I agree, but hold on a second. Yaya Toure, David Silva, Aguero, and a bunch of other very good players that stayed for a while were there before him. All I'm saying is the teams like Liverpool, if they don't get the academy right or buy the really good deals, which I think they did, the Man Cities and the PSGs will literally be like, well, we're going to spend another 150 on 2 or 3 players that will immediately fix our team, regardless of who the manager is, and that won't change for them.
Listen, take Liverpool out of the equation. I've been very clear about this. Liverpool probably won't be there. What I'm talking about is the young team that you get right now with Chelsea, who are young, Man United, who are young, as examples. They're going to be at their peak performance levels in 2 or 3 years, right around the time that Pep's going to leave. Liverpool should already be on the decline. Whoever wins that arms race of stacking up young talent to hit full performance levels, then, and Chelsea could be hitting that now for all I know. They're young and experienced across the board. But it's this weird dynamic of those two teams are still so dominant, even with this window, even with all the additions to this window. The two teams everybody should be watching from week to week is probably still Man City and Liverpool.
Yeah, they haven't changed
Chelsea,
a lot, and they're still probably going to be in the top 3.
Throw Chelsea in there too. They're a very, very impressive squad, and they proved that again this past weekend.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, guys. Well, we're going to do a transfer special on Thursday. Is there anything else we want to talk about here before we move on to last weekend's results?
No, I think we have the fun stuff on Thursday with who got the best deal, who's going to be the standout, like all the fun stuff you do. I think we should set it up that way if we're not already going to do that. But
no, I think that's the plan is to kind of go over who we think got the best window and the worst window, of course, is the fun one to look at as well. So look for that show on Thursday, folks. If you're watching this, please tune in Thursday, either live or you can watch it obviously post and let us know what you think. Get in the comments and all that other fun stuff. Please, if you're watching this at any point in time, like and subscribe. We are new to YouTube and we're trying to build the channel, so the more the merrier, and also like the actual stream because that helps.
If anybody's out there doing the Sal Niguez watch, there's been a bit of an on-off kind of thing of it is now confirmed to be like on. The paperwork is being filed correctly. There's no issues with fax machines or any of that shit so far.
There we go. Still Windows stuff coming in. It always happens in the evening of these things, and even into
these deals could collapse
into the next day. Yeah, I mean, there's paperwork to be signed. That, as long as they get over a certain point, they can say that the deal's done. But things can happen, and we'll see tomorrow what pops up. Oh, look, Paul's
Rondon.
Rondon
Rondon is back to. He's joining Everton to join up with Rafa again.
Yeah, there you go.
Salomon Rondon.
Fax machine. Best move ever in a transfer window. Pulling the plug on the fax machine.
Fantastic stuff. All right, well let's get into the games of the weekend, guys. It was a fun one again. A really entertaining weekend of football. Some more draws this weekend than last, but still fantastic stuff. I'm gonna let Connie let you roll with this, pal.
Yeah, buddy, I'm looking forward to this one. Okay, let's start with Man City hosting Arsenal. A lot of people looking forward to this one. Like, I don't know what it is. We talked about it last week. We'll continue to talk about it. It seems like every non-Arsenal fan has just jumped on this bandwagon of just hating on Arsenal and enjoying this demise. And, guys, this game did not help. Manchester City 5, Arsenal 0. Xhaka with a red card in the 35th minute. We'll get back to that. Ferran Torres, 2 goals and assist. We'll get back to that as well. But I want to really get to Arsenal have conceded 10 goals in 2 fucking games, guys. They are in a world of hurt. But let's revisit this a little bit.
You keep saying things and going back to it? Just pick something.
No, I'm going to go through all of it because I think there's a lot of talking points. I know, but I'm excited.
Just let Connie do Connie, man.
That's it,
chill
baby.
out a little bit.
That was Granit Xhaka's 10th red card under Mikel Arteta. You want to talk about a guy that should be out of your friggin'
Connie,
football
they just
club?
made him club captain again.
I know, and that just tells you the state of Arsenal. He's not good. Like, he's not good enough to play for a bottom half. He's terrible. I don't know why he's still there, and I kind of felt bad for Arteta a little bit. But with shit like this, that's when I don't feel bad. But I do want to get to Ferran Torres as well. Question for both of you guys: is this gonna be the guy to alleviate the no longer having Sergio Aguero? He looks like he's a comfortable goal scorer. I think he could own that false 9 because it's not going to be Sterling. It's not going to be Jack Grealish. I don't care what you say. Kevin De Bruyne isn't a striker. He can pop up with a goal. But is this guy the answer?
I'm gonna say to some extent, but then I'm gonna also say if he plays Jesus off the right, then yes, because Jesus is a much better winger than he is a striker, and you saw in this game his effect on the match playing from that side of the pitch. That's where he plays for Brazil, and I think the energy of the team and the way they play up top and the movement, it suits him. It suits Jesus and I think Torres as well. So I think so. I think that they'll be comfortable with that setup. With the quality they have.
I don't think Jesus is his preferred starting 11. Like if they're playing against a Chelsea or like a United,
I think you'll see him play a lot off that right.
That's Mahrez's spot in like the big games, I think. But here's the other thing: I do want to defend them a little. Like I was going off on the Xhaka thing, which I do agree with. He's just been a nightmare for them. But
do I not get a chance to answer the question?
Oh, sorry,
you're all over the fucking place.
I'm excited about this one. I will. I'll
revisit. Just like take a beat.
Take a breath.
Wow, God damn it. For me, it's Man City or a committee. Man City or a squad of committee. Like, yes, Ferran Torres will be a person that helps, but he will not be the guy who runs the 9. Gabriel Jesus will be there at some point. I'm sure Mahrez will be there at some point. I'm sure Sterling will be at some point. Like, it's the frustration of this team if you care to follow week-to-week lineups of Man City, but it's also the genius
the worst
of how
for fantasy team.
How the squad was assembled to be able to be this like well-run rotating machine. Like Mahrez is probably the starter on the right. He's only started 1 game all season for no other reason than because he could. Like why use him when you don't need him? Like you can beat the shit out of anyone 5-0 and still have arguably not your best 11. They haven't once played their best 11 all season. And it's so crazy. And Ferran Torres is probably the surprise package because he was never intended to be a guy who could even try the false 9, let alone seemingly be very well suited to be a Pep false 9. He does tend to score in multiples occasionally. But then it's like last season. He did that last season where a couple of games he scored a couple of goals, and then he had a couple of games where he was relatively quiet and not really pulling it off because it's not really his position.
Well, they rotate so much, right? And he loves his false 9. He loved it at like Barcelona. But I'm telling you, if like, listen, Aguero was nailed on for their top goal scorer every season. I have a strong suspicion it's going to be this guy because I think he's got an eye for the net. And we've seen Sterling struggle in front of the goal. Mahrez pops up every now and then. I don't think he's convinced by Gabriel Jesus, but we'll see. But it must be a real nice problem to have. We haven't even mentioned Jack Grealish once, who I thought was pretty good today. But to go back to the Arsenal thing, they had a lot of their best players injured for this game, which is not helping them. Like, I think if you look at the Arsenal squad on paper, if everyone's healthy, it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. They need those injuries to heal, as this international break probably couldn't have come any quicker, because I think on paper they're not that bad. That team they fielded was going to get smashed 3 or 4. The red card probably didn't help, but any other thoughts on this one, boys?
I would just say what it shows is their lack of depth. And if they do have injury problems or have players out, this is the team that comes out, and that's really fucking bad. So they're in trouble if key players get injured. But I've spent the week just slagging on Arsenal, and it's been fun. So I'm happy to move on.
Yeah, everybody has.
I'll say what I continue to say. They just need to limp past this terrible run of fixtures that they started their season with, get past this terrible run of luck that they have with their squad and injuries. This was never going to be a surprise. Nobody should be shocked by this. Like, it's terrible.
I mean, come on. It's not 0 goals, 9 scored against. And 0 points after 3 games.
But what does that have to do with anything when it comes to games 4 or 5 when they're healthier?
No.
And they're playing Brentford.
What you just said, Paul, was nobody should be worried about this. If you're any team,
I said nobody should be surprised by this.
Nobody should be surprised. I think that this is the first time this has happened to Arsenal since 1954. That says everything that it's surprising, because it hasn't happened in 70 years, 60, 70 years. So it is a very difficult, strange thing for any club to go through. It doesn't matter what their situation is when it comes to injuries and stuff. It's right. They're being very poorly managed in a difficult situation.
Again, at the end of the day, we're talking about they've had 3 bad results of 3 games to start a season. One of them was against Lukaku and the fucking champions of Europe, and the other one was against Pep and the champions of England.
Yeah.
It's there's context and there's perspective, and I think a lot of Arsenal fans are just losing their shit.
Yep.
And I get why they are losing their shit, but also, like, you really could not have been expecting point-wise to get much more than what you've been getting right now. How they recover, how he battens down the hatches, circles the wagons, use whatever analogy you want, how he gets them to refocus and recover after this very shitty run of fixtures. That's going to be how we evaluate his management, in my opinion.
I agree.
I agree to an extent, but I will finish with this, that I think he should have been able to do something to at least show effort. This team looked like they had 0 to give in this game, and I think that says a lot about the what's going on within the squad.
A red card 35th minute is a bit of a.
I'm not talking about one game in one moment. I'm talking about 3 games with everything that happened in those 3 games and the performances in all of them. They've been fucking poor. So I'd be very worried for good reason.
We could continue, but we should move on. Pep had a lot of comments defending Arteta. I will say that. Go have a look at them if you want. But for the purpose of time, Aston Villa hosting Brentford with a 1-1 draw. Ivan Toney off the mark. And Paul's boy, Buendieta, who I think goes by Emi or whatever when I check on the stats. Emil, that's right. Sorry, he got a nice goal. I enjoyed this game.
Buendia? Is it not Buendia?
Yeah, it's Buendia. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said Buendetta is what you said. So that was.
And you know what? This was a good game. I thought Brentford showed themselves a little bit. You could tell Aston Villa are missing Jack a little bit, but Paul, for you, does this giving Brentford a little bit of hope that they could maybe get a run going here? What do we think?
I mean, 5 points out of 3 is a pretty good introduction to the Premier League.
Yeah.
Ivan Toney getting off the mark is pretty good. Where he goes from here will be telling. But Aston Villa are not an easy team to beat. This is a good point for Brentford. And I think Aston Villa got to be looking at this as being this is not great. This is not a good start to the season. There's lots of logical reasons behind that. You have a lot of new players. You're missing a star player. I think I will say this: when people talk about how they're missing a star player, and this is the adjustment period after Grealish was absent for 1/3 of the season last year. They have had time to play regularly without Jack for a while now. So I don't buy that as much as I do buy the more realistic. They've got a lot of new players that they need to gel and figure out how to play the new system, and they need to know how to work with Danny Ings. And Danny Ings hasn't really had a chance to play with what's his face, their regular striker Watkins. So there's like a feeling out period that I think explains some of the performances so far for Aston Villa. I give them maybe 1 or 2 more games where I'm understanding the form right now, but
Yeah.
I would start to worry because Aston Villa started the season with a really straightforward run of fixtures. It only gets harder from here.
But I gotta like check you on that though. We all watched when Jack was injured for that final third of the season, how poor they were and how
they
much
were
he
terrible.
wasn't. I think the Buendia signing and I think that Ings one will cover up for that and possibly more. That Ings signing, if he stays healthy, could be massive. Like I don't think they should have anything to be worried about. But you're right, they're kind of figuring out life after Jack. I think they'll get it together. But a good point for Brentford. Gentlemen, Brighton hosting Everton, 2-0 Everton. Let's talk about it right away. It was wild. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin scores a penalty. Richarlison literally, like they tried to take the ball off him. He was being a petulant child, refused to not take the penalty, like in his mind. And then I don't know if you guys saw it, but Andres Townsend goes up, punches the ball out from under his arm, picks it up, and gives it to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Excuse me. The whole team is like, dude, what are you doing? But before we get into the rest of the game, well, like, did you guys? I'm sure you guys saw it. Were you not like, what's going on with this guy?
Oh, I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
watching it. I was just like, this is just
It's entertaining. It's entertaining. It's one of those things that he's being a pestilent child, and not getting his way. I don't know why I'm assuming that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the penalty taker.
This is his second ever penalty for Everton.
Yeah, second ever, but he's the one who's been told by the manager.
Designated,
supposed to be taking it, and it's a strange one. It's a strange one, but also super entertaining as well. Kind of laughed as well. I was like, oh, look at that. But I guess what you do like about it is that there's some passion there, and that he wants to get on the score sheet as well. He's trying to. I mean, I think it's stupid. Don't get me wrong. I'm not justifying it. I just think there's a little bit of they both want to win kind of scenario in the head, and they want to be part of it. So.
I thought it's pretty bad as a teammate, but
we'll see what happens afterwards. I bet you they go back into the change room after that, and they're just like, "Whatever, dude, you're a prick." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm sorry, man, I was a prick."
Oh,
Hopefully.
I would be shocked if Dominic Calvert-Lewin brought this up at all. Like, I think he's gonna go back there, and it'll be Coleman or Allen or somebody who's gonna be like tear a strip off the guy.
Oh yeah,
just leave Dominic Calvert-Lewin out of it because he's just kind of doing his thing, scoring goals. Like that drama will be like you could kind of see like Allen was the guy who came over and he speaks Brazilian, Portuguese, and he was the guy kind of just like giving him the eyes and like saying the right words in the right language to calm him down. But it was pretty wild, man. The game itself was pretty entertaining. It didn't. I don't think it necessarily deserved a 2-0 scoreline. Classic Brighton. They seem to be playing pretty well, but can't score.
Frickin' score. Same thing from last season. 66% of the possession for Brighton. 14 shots, 3 on goal, which is similar to Everton. 14 shots, 5 on goal. But to have that much possession, that's the story of Brighton. That's what they did last season. That's what we kept saying. They're lovely to watch, but they can barely score. And it's Wolves this season as well in a similar scenario. But like, where are the strikers coming from? Where are the goals going to come from for Brighton? I don't know.
It's been the problem.
Danny Welbeck, just wait until he's healthy.
Yeah, I guess, right?
He's never healthy. The other thing we should talk about in this game, and Paul, he was not on the list earlier, but the other goal scorer, Damari Gray, has looked fantastic.
What a bargain that would
is.
Speaking of good transfers, right? £1.5 million they paid for him.
Yeah, and he's looked great.
Cheap it up.
He didn't.
Well, we've heard his name before. He has been in the Premier League before. He has scored goals before. He has looked good before, and then he drops off because he's a young guy.
Fair.
If he can keep it up, by all means, let's have a conversation about who he is. But at the same time, a lot of clubs have explored this dude. He seems to have a ceiling, and people seem to know what it is. I like what he's doing so far, and I like that fit that he has.
Looks good.
Who could use him on their team? Brighton.
Yeah,
that's where they would be desperate.
I'll tell you where they're like the embarrassment of riches that they have, and I don't understand how he didn't get snapped up by somebody. Was in the center midfield. Basuma is just so like
incredible.
His numbers in a losing cause are unbelievable, and there's a reason why the possession for Brighton was in the 60% level. Like it was his ball retention, his
keeps it ticking,
interception, his passing range. He's just fucking great, and I just got so mad that he's on Brighton still.
Yeah, he'd be perfect replacement for your guys.
Oh man, he's a perfect fit on our team. I don't understand how nobody went after him. It was weird, but he's really shining bright now. This next game was wild. Newcastle hosting Southampton. 90th minute, Newcastle think they have the winner. And then
Crazy.
James Ward-Prowse in the 96th minute. Boom. 2-2 draw. Very exciting. Newcastle have dropped 5 points from winning positions already this season. I know it's early, but we're having a little bit of fun. Any thoughts from either of you if Newcastle need to be worried this season about dropping down to the championship, or too early?
Oh, it's a tough one. Yeah, I think it's a bit too early. I think there's other teams on paper that are worse than them, but they're going to be right there. They're going to be right around it. It depends on, I think, health, how fit they can stay, and if Callum Wilson's popping them in, which he did. He scored one in this game, and if he keeps popping them in, St. Maximum as well, great player.
Oh man, I like him.
If he stays fit and Wilson stays fit, then they'll be all right.
Yep, I agree.
Did you see the transfer business for Newcastle today?
No.
Was there any?
They signed a striker called Santiago Munez.
Oh, Munez, yeah.
And if you've ever watched the movie Goal, Santiago Munez was the name of the main character that went to Newcastle from Mexico to salvage his career and their career in Newcastle.
Do you think they did it just as a joke?
I don't know, but like, God bless the Newcastle fans. They've all kind of like latched on to like, we have an actual Santi. We have a Santi.
That's amazing.
They didn't even sign him. They got him on loan.
I love that though. That's still funny. You gotta love it.
That's
funny,
awesome. Norwich hosting Leicester 2-1 for Leicester. Second win of the season. Pookie gets Norwich on the board, but Norwich having a tough time. They had a goal called back because of VAR, but I don't know. This was pretty straightforward for me. I watched it. I thought Leicester were good. Vardy starting the season off well.
Goal and an assist, right? He's man of the match in this game.
I thought Norwich were a bit unlucky. I didn't love that VAR call. It was
bad. They were unlucky.
The call was essentially ball in the box. Defender rised up and headed it into the corner where no goaltender is going to get it. Just perfectly nestled into the corner. Called back because there's a Norwich player standing in front of the keeper in a offside position, which is pretty straightforward. It actually is. But at the same time, he's not getting that ball. That's a goal either way. Like how he's not physically interfering with him because he has to go across. He's blocking his line of vision, but like common sense should be he's not going to get that ball.
Yeah.
So it was very unlucky for Norwich. I didn't like how Leicester played all that much, to be honest. Like I didn't think they looked that impressive against newly promoted, very, very bad Norwich, which they are. I thought Norwich put in a decent display. I would like to see them get more out of this game, but if anything, right now I'm learning that there's still some issues that have to be worked out at Leicester. The center back situation, just to name one of them, still has to get worked out. They are not fully fit, and as a result, they are not as solid as they have been in the past at the back.
Yeah, you kind of nicked this one, didn't they? They got.
Do you have concerns about them at the back? Like, do you have concerns about their central back pairing? Like Son Yuku, he hasn't started this season well.
He's been terrible.
He's been bad, but he is a good. We've seen him play well. Like, I think he could come good. He's a solid player.
I don't know how much he needs like a Johnny Evans beside him to like calm him down. I don't know if he's trying to do too much because he's the guy now. Mm-hmm. I'm not terribly worried about them. They did invest in a center back who I think is.
Is Soyuncu still around, or did he?
That's what we're talking about.
Oh, you're talking about Soyuncu. Oh, you just pronounced.
I mispronounced his name really badly. I've always struggled with that one.
But he has been terrible. Like he has not had a good start to the season. He's made mistakes, multiple games. Like he's not looking good. Yeah. He's got to recover. Like again, for a lot of players, this international break's probably coming at the exact right time. For a lot of teams, it might be coming back at the right time. Because like I don't know when Johnny Evans is going to be back, but I can tell you, even though he's fucking old, that
still
guy,
a good player.
He provides a leadership and an organization, which is probably what they're missing the most right now. Because the guys they have filling in are quite young and are not really anyone you'd really want to listen to. You know what I mean? Like they haven't worn that right yet. And the guys like Fofana who have broken his legs out for probably the season, they don't have that leadership, but they've got that natural skill. That Fofana
injury could really hurt them this season because he was an up and comer. Yeah, terrible. Absolutely. West Ham hosting Crystal Palace 2-2 draw. Very good game. Very good. I thought Crystal Palace did themselves very well here. West Ham have started very well. Mikel Antonio again leading the league, scores, gets an assist. Conor Gallagher with 2 goals. He's looking great. I don't know, guys. Like, were you like me? Did you go into this thinking, oh, this is comfortable for West Ham just the way they've started? I thought Crystal Palace looked pretty good.
I was surprised. I think, yeah, definitely Palace the best they've looked so far this season. More organized going forward. More, just they looked like they had an idea. Whereas in previous games they looked a little bit out of ideas. So I was impressed. And against the West Ham side, we know have really good players going forward, really good solid midfield. Maybe defensively sometimes they're a little bit sloppy, but I thought it was a fun game, easy game to watch because it didn't matter. So lots of goals and entertaining, good football.
West Ham create a lot, and they clearly took a step back and said, hey, we'd rather invest in our central defense with Kurt Zuma. We maybe don't need Jesse Lingard. We don't know if that's true or not yet. It's too early in the season, but clearly they think they've got enough up front to attack, and it's starting to look that way. But Crystal Palace, I thought they did themselves very well here. It was an entertaining game. The next one, gentlemen.
Can you imagine what happens to West Ham if Antonio goes down? And he will.
You think he will? Does he? He's got
hurt
a track record, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're going to see. Brian's right. That's when you need that depth, and that's why you bring in players. Liverpool hosting Chelsea. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Okay, this game started, and about 10 minutes in, I was like, this is just watching the football. And obviously, I mean, they're typical rivals for all 3 of us because of the teams we support, but there had to be a part of you that watched this. It was like, this is just the cream of the crop football. Before the red
really
card,
really fun to watch. Yeah.
Oh, they're just they were both well-oiled machines, and then we might as well get to it. No, we should start and say, Chelsea take the lead.
Kai Havertz's goal is ridiculous. That header. I mean, if he meant to do that, which it looks like he did. It was painful.
He's trying to obviously flick it on, but it's perfect and goes in the net. It couldn't be any better. Great goal. And I thought maybe Liverpool were playing a little bit better at that point. I thought Liverpool started out better, so that kind of quieted them down. Now let's get to the moment that really changed the game, and that's the red card. I think it was like in the 35th minute or something like that. So a lot of controversy.
It was 48th minute is when the actual red was given. It was post. Right. After the
second half. Okay.
Yeah. No, it was in the first half. It was just before the end of the half.
Okay, I remember it.
In the extra time, yeah.
That makes sense. So you guys saw the kerfuffle, and then the ball comes in. So I'll set it up for the listeners, the watchers. So the ball is directed towards the net. Reece James sticks his leg out. The ball hits his thigh, and then it does hit his arm. Now, letter of the law, I guess technically, and I want to get both your opinions on this, because it hits his arm, he's on the goal line, he's stopping, he's preventing a goal. The letter of the law apparently says it's a red card. Paul, I'm going to start with you. Was that a red for you?
He denied a goal-scoring opportunity as a red card.
And it didn't just bounce onto his arm.
He moved his arm.
He
forward.
swung his arm.
Okay, this is what I'm asking. Do you guys think he swung his arm onto the ball? Because I don't.
It moved. It moved
I
forward.
don't. I know.
He moved his arm forward and hit the ball. I mean, and he could tell he was doing it to hit the ball.
Like what? If you see me move my leg a certain way, my arm has to follow. That's
no. It moved forward to the ball.
He moved it forward
to the ball. Watch it
again. He's standing on the line. It's almost like you're doing this with his shoulder, but it's on your arm, and he may not have realized it was exactly on his arm. It all happened so fast. I don't think it's a dirty play. I don't think he knew much about it, but the letter of the law is it came up on his arm at the goal line, and it moved forward away from the goal line because of his arm movement, and it denied a clear goal-scoring opportunity. I dislike what it did to the rest of the game.
For sure.
But
everybody does.
You don't make
but it's a red
calls for
card.
those reasons. You make calls because they're letter of the law, and it was the right call.
So just for the people watching and listening, let me ask you a question because I'm not sure about this. Let's say his arm doesn't move forward and it's tucked in and it hits his arm. Is it still a red because he's on the goal line and it hits his arm? Or was it the movement forward that
I think
made
it's
it
the
back?
movement forward. I think if you look at it, his arm is away from his body. It's forward, and you see the replay. He swings it enough. It almost looks like he was almost about to swat it, just out of in his head. He's kind of going, "Oh crap, this ball's going to go in," and then he stops doing that. So his arm kind of like it moves and then stops and then hits his arm. So I don't know. For me, it was obvious. I don't know why there's even debate about it. I thought I saw it. And I'm like, it's shitty in the moment because it
Step up Mo Salah from the spot, and it's 1-1 at a break.
And then I would say, minus the red card, the story of the game is just the defensive performance from Chelsea in the second half. They
Impressive as hell. Yeah.
Mendy.
solidified themselves as one of the best defensive units in Europe, never mind the Premier League. And that's hats off to Tuchel, because we were talking about this time last year saying they got problems back there.
I just want to remind everybody just a certain highlight that Mendy is like the defense improved at Chelsea, specifically when Mendy went there.
Oh, it was immediate. It was immediate.
And
yeah.
I think it gets understated a lot because there was also a Lampard change to Tuchel. Obviously, there's a very different kind of influence and direction on the defense as a whole, but he still is so responsible for so much of what has happened defensively for that team.
Absolutely.
And I think it's kind of a signing that like it's a little understated because he wasn't like a flashy signing, but he doesn't get like highlighted enough for me as being like an elite in the goaltending sphere right now.
I don't think he is like comes off as elite. I just think he's so solid and he dictates what happens and he owns his box and he's a big man, and that has a massive impact on how the defenders respond to their keeper. So
well, you guys remember what happened before he got there. There was goalie errors every week. But something I do want to call it, I think like
Kepa was a mess.
Yeah, a complete mess. But Tuchel has turned Rudiger in, because remember we were like Rudiger's just not. He was a mess last year at the beginning. He looks like a world-class defender now.
And Christensen,
yeah,
brought them all back. They all look solid. Yeah.
You know what no one's talking about, and I'd like to talk about it very quickly before we move on. Like Marcos Alonso was back in the team, and Chilwell, who they paid $50 million for, doesn't seem to be his preferred left back right now, which I think no one's speaking about. Maybe that becomes an issue soon. Chilwell, I was very impressed with last year under Lampard. Seems to have shifted a little bit under Tuchel, but we'll see. It was a very, very good game. The Sunday games, Burnley hosting Leeds, 1 each. Chris Wood, great goal, starting off where he left off last year. Bamford gets into the mix. Anything much more to say about this one, boys?
I just want to chuck in the Leeds second season syndrome. Seems like it's a bit of a thing at the moment. Just chucking that in there for.
Okay, so what are your expectations for them this year? Genuinely, where do you expect them to finish?
I think they'll finish probably 12th or 13th.
Where'd they finish last year? Like 9th?
Yeah.
10th? It's not going to be that far off. I think they'll be fine.
It's drop down from where they were.
Do you think Bielsa ball will slow down a little bit this year and he'll get figured out?
I don't know if it's a slowing down per se. Certainly figuring out. I think that the openness of how they play, other teams are gonna know how to exploit it, and we're starting to see that. A team like Burnley, who are typically a team that sits back, were looked comfortable against them. It didn't look like they were struggling. So I was surprised by that.
Yeah,
they had a lot of the ball, of course, but Burnley had just as many chances, if not more, to score and deserve the draw.
Yep. Spurs hosting Watford. A young man's son in the 42nd minute with a free kick that he looks like he's trying to put into the box, whips it right into the bottom corner. I don't think it was a shot.
Not a shot. No, it was a cross.
Personally think it was a cross, and genuinely, I think it was a goaltender error, but it was whipped in. It was a tough one. But, Bri, I'll let you kind of give your thoughts on the Spurs. I watched the game. I thought they were poor. What did you think? What'd you make of it?
I don't know if I would say they were poor. I think Watford didn't really offer a hell of a lot. Spurs needed to be more clinical. There was a couple chances in the second half. Dele Alli getting into the box, something he would have put away with his eyes closed a couple seasons ago, just missed the net. I think another 1-0. I think the thing that I'm seeing the most that I like is the defense. Spurs defense has been really solid. Obviously, 3 clean sheets in 3 games to start the season is really impressive for any team. Doesn't matter who they played against. Wolves were the better side last week, 1-0 against them. I think we were much better than Watford this week. I still think there's a ways to go going forward. Harry Kane looked a little bit, unfit. He wasn't really moving as mobile as you'd like him to, even though he was sort of dropping deep. But yeah, I mean, Spurs top of the league, so it's hard to complain.
You're right. You take it, right?
You take it. I'm hoping that it's just the beginning of something. I don't want to see this continue like we saw under Mourinho. If it's Mourinho football with a better defense and a bit more organization, then I'm not going to be that happy, because I don't want to see that. I want to see an attacking team. We have the players to do it. So I'm hoping that it is just sort of get the players through the door, through the transfer window, and get everybody fit, and we'll start to see a little bit more expansive football.
Well, can I ask you a question? Because I really don't know the answer. Romero, what's his status, and when do you expect him in after the international break, and does he step in for Dyer for you?
He played in Europe, and he played a full 90 the first time, and he was a little unfit. Like he came off a little uncomfortable, and then was told he was fit for the next game and played the full 90 as well in the next European game. I think they're just easing him in. But it's what you do when you bring
Dyer has actually looked pretty good though.
Dyer's been amazing
for me.
Yeah, exactly, Paul. So this is the thing: you have a team that have had 3 clean sheets. Do you change the defense all of a sudden because you got another player?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? That seems to be a silly thing.
I mean, Crystal Palace coming up and then Chelsea. Like, what if it's working?
Yeah,
like,
keep it going.
up.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
And they have been they've been really good. Like if you look at the organization, Davinson Sanchez looks like a player.
He looks legit. He looks very legit.
He went from being a player that was like every time he got the ball, I was nervous as hell because I wasn't sure what he was going to do with it, to a player that is pinging balls. He's looking like Alderweireld with some of the pinging he's doing to passing. But I do think Romero will eventually replace probably Dyer, just because of I think communication more than anything when it comes to the two of them being able to talk to each other in Spanish, and that's going to be a big
Let's
part
see
of
what
it.
Emerson Royal can do on that right side when he gets a shot as well.
Yeah, yep.
Great start for Spurs. We can't deny that. And then Wolves hosting Manchester United. Manchester United really with a smash and grab 1-0. I mean, as a United fan, they just
Get more smash and grab than that.
No, they just did not deserve to win this game. It was a shock that they did. But we saw some debuts for Varane and Sancho. One of them looked world class, and that was Rafael Varane. Sancho, for me, looks like it's going to take some time to get in. Traore, guys, Jesus Christ, can you imagine if this guy could score? Holy crap. He would literally run by Fred, and Fred would like fall over. He'd go by 2 or 3 guys. If this guy had some end product or even a little bit more football IQ, he would be one of the best players on the planet.
It's absurd.
I'm not gonna argue fully, but when a guy sets up 5 scoring opportunities for his teammates,
that's true.
and he's not surrounded by guys who can score, I don't know if should he make those runs and be Lionel Messi and score himself every time? Well, he's not fucking Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
So no.
If he had Raul Jimenez, who he had when he had his best season, and he's assisted 9, he had 9 assists for Jimenez. So it does come down to that. The end product does come down to having a striker to hit.
And this is this game. Like, he doesn't have the best decision making, but when you give yourself 4 or 5 opportunities to get around pretty much every defender in the league so far, you only need to make the right decision 1 or 2 times before all of a sudden you're going to start getting the productivity from the other end. But he's not a finisher. So they need to put those shots away. And Wolves are like, they're in a really unlucky patch. I think they've been playing really well.
Agreed.
Very good.
This new manager has them putting high shot count, high volume. They don't sit back the way they used to. They're not afraid to attack. I think Man United's midfield made them look very good this game. That's a typical how I evaluate Wolves and how I evaluate against this game is different. But like last 3 games with this new manager, I've been really impressed with. There's a real strong emphasis on goal scoring. It's not paying off for them right now, but they're doing all the right things.
Chances created are insane, like compared to last season.
They're going to crush somebody 4-0 relatively soon.
Yeah.
But this game is a smash and grab. You're 100% right. Sancho, I thought, looked poor. Varane looked like a Rolls Royce.
Oh, yeah.
But a Rolls Royce with a guy like Fred stumbling over his feet in front of you.
Well, let's hold on for that. Let's hold on because
Fred was a mess.
because I do really want to bring that up, and I want to get both of your opinions on this. But let's get to the goal because I think we should end on that midfield because I think it's a big talking point in the Premier League. But I want to talk about the foul or the non-foul. What was it for you? I'll start with you, Brian. You probably saw the highlights of the Paul Pogba follow through on Neves.
I watched it. I watched it over and over again.
For sure.
Yeah.
Give me your thoughts on that. For me, before we get started, I think it's a foul, and I don't think the goal should have counted. I think it's bad refereeing, and I think VAR fucked up. But I want to hear what you guys thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page as you. I think when I first saw it, my initial thought was he was kind of overreacting to something. But when you see the right angle of it, where he clips him on the foot, it's one of those injuries you guys know when you play that if you get a stomp, it doesn't immediately hit. It like sort of it takes a second, and you go, oh crap, and you kind of see him like he goes through that moment. And then I saw the replay where the contact was, and also just going over the ball with your foot up like that. It's very dangerous from Pogba. and it wasn't a 50-50 ball, despite what he's saying. And so that, for me, yeah, I think the referees got it wrong here, and I think that it's really unfortunate for Wolves. I think they deserve more in this game, and I hate to see those things happen. They happen, It's not like I'm not gonna be conspiratorial like many and say, United got their call from the referee. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it was just they made a mistake. They made a mistake in a scenario that was maybe difficult to call in that moment, but I think Wolves got shafted.
Paul, do you agree with that, or do you think this tackle might have fallen into that category of this new level of leniency that we're seeing and we're hearing about, and for the most part, largely enjoying, I would say?
I think in real time, it wasn't a foul. It's you guys going for the ball at the same time. I think the contact was minimal. It was a cleat on a shin guard that got under the shin kind of thing. But in real time, and the referee was right there watching the entire thing feet away, I have no problem with the referee saying, just keep playing. Like, you're both going for a ball, something happened, like, go playing. When you go back and look at a VAR, super slow motion, different story. But the game is played in real time. Like, it's not... That's why I think they're going away from like this over reliance of going back in time and slowing things down for every little thing. Like, that's a regular point of contact that you would have 10 times
but you wouldn't have it with your foot up like that or over the ball. And I think that's where the ref got it wrong. And
again, he's right there watching it, and I don't have a problem with his foot being in the position he was. I think there's people are making too much of it, like his foot being up. It wasn't up on his like. It was elevated. It was like
over the ball, and like that's
going for the ball.
No, but that in itself,
Brian, without getting into a replay, this is going to be bad content.
Is just the law, though?
I want you to know I disagree, and people have reviewed it who are referees, and they're on my side of this, so I tend to lean with them.
I've seen it the other way, it's Paul. So I don't.
And that's fine, and that's why this sport has got the whole thing called interpretation, and that's why refereeing is not black and white; it's interpretive. So my stance is, it was a lot to do about nothing. I have no problem with the referee allowing the play to continue on. And VAR reviewed it after the fact, as it's supposed to, and they seem to have agreed, which tells me, if anything, they are having a little bit more of a common sense application to VAR, which is what we all want.
Well, here's the thing. I think you both raise a good point. Like, I'm on Brian's side, but I think Paul actually is kind of nailing it. I think there's definitely a feeling of we're going to more than let things go this year, which could, bring back that kind of rough and tumble football that we're used to. Premier League's a tough league. It's physical. It's fast. And you might see a lot more of that.
I don't think this call or non-call counts as the same thing we've been
I would
seeing
agree with you. I would agree with you, Brian. But I think what
different.
happened to Bruno Fernandes last week should have been a foul, but it wasn't. So as a fan, am I happy? But if I had to take my United half, I'm with you. I think it was a foul. But regardless of that, the goal stood. But what I want to ask you both about is, I think if you
how
both
good is Mason
game,
Greenwood? It's very good. If that's what you're going to ask me.
Oh yeah, he's
what
the real
finish.
He's the real deal. Finish with him. But before we do that, you both watched the game, and Bri, you're not a United fan, but you follow the Premier League very closely. You're very knowledgeable. How much did United's midfield, Fred in particular, stick out to you to say, you've got Varane, you've got Sancho, you're bringing in Cristiano Ronaldo, but there's no chance this team competes for a title because of their midfield? Fred in particular.
It's blatantly obvious. I mean, we've talked about it. We've talked about it since the season started. The first 3 games, it's so blatant that it's surprising that nothing was done about it in the transfer window. I'm shocked that it wasn't thought that we need this type of player in this position that's going to manage that situation. Fred is not the player. He's not big enough. He's not strong enough. He makes bad decisions. His passing isn't really very good. And I find him to be a big detriment to United if they do want to go to that next level, especially with what you just said with the players they brought in. That's a part of on the pitch, and maybe they'll address in January. But it's glaring, when you look on the pitch and the issues that you guys have.
It was a talking point of the game. Like, they were pressed by Wolves a little bit. Pogba doesn't move the ball fast. We know that Pogba's better up the field.
Did you see Pogba telling Fred where to play instead of actually playing, which I find is very telling. He's like, you need to move back here, point over here, instead of actually being focused on what he's supposed to be doing. I thought that was I was like, that's not good.
And Nemanja Matic and Scott McTominay are not the guys to come in and fix it either. Like, for me, I'm going to just make a comment, and then I want to get Paul's opinion. As much as I love bringing in Cristiano Ronaldo. And I think that was more about not necessarily getting him. I think it was preventing him going to City, but not signing a defensive midfielder. I would have rather taken a defensive midfielder and used Basuma over Jadon Sancho, because I think other than that central defense position, it's what United need the most. Paul, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of United fans are freaking the fuck out. I look at it as how I have looked at it for a while now. Judge the transfers based on transfer windows, plural, and calm down at the results of a single transfer. If Declan Rice is in our transfer next summer and is better than every option we just discussed as being like we're going to make a run for it this season, then let's admit what happened. Like, it was a good move then. Like,
okay,
that's a time will tell kind of thing. But I also look at this squad right now and go, all right, well, everybody's freaking out. Okay, I get that. I'm kind of with you guys. But the big unknown, the big, like, what do they know? Don't they know? What is the plan here? Is Van de Beek. And everybody is completely decided that he's not in Ole's thinking. He's not blah, blah, blah. After 3 games to start the season, he's come back. He's put on some muscle. He's done what he clearly needed to do based on either instruction or what he thinks he needs to do to get a chance. We've got Champions League games coming up. We've got FA Cup comes in. He's going to get a chance, and he's going to get one relatively soon. Ole is not the kind of manager who just says, all right, Fred, welcome back. You're not going to play anymore. Like, he's loyal to his guys. So I'm not surprised that he continues to give Fred a chance. I just need to see where this goes because the chances need to be running out.
Well, here's the thing, Paul. You just brought in one of the greatest players of all time back to your club, Ronaldo. You brought in Rafael Varane and Jadon Sancho, big name players. I don't think Ronaldo comes to United or these other players come if they don't think they're going to make a run to win a title in England and make a run in the Champions League. Knowing what you know of the current midfield, do you think United compete, or is this for you as a fan saying we're making steps in the right direction for next season and the season after?
I generally think we're making right directional steps. Yeah. Cristiano Ronaldo is something that would jump our plan forward, make no mistake about it. But do we throw the plan away because we have a chance at Ronaldo? Or is he taking his chance of not winning with us right now? I would prefer that we realize he's only here for 2 years. Let's not fucking get ourselves off the roadmap that I think I've been seeing built. And that's why I'm like, we still need a defensive midfield player. But if we end up getting Declan Rice next year for 60 or 70 instead of the 100 that we have been talking about, well, now everybody throughout the spine of this team, the core of this team, is going to be very good for a while now. And Ronaldo's there for a spell of that to impart some wisdom and help us score some goals and entertain everybody for a couple of years. That's great. But it's not a Ronaldo team. It's a Ronaldo team. Like, he's here now, but he's gone in 2 years. So, and that's blueprint. That's team building.
That's fair.
But even now, the unknown is once we start seeing Van de Beek getting a chance in that midfield, maybe it is there. Maybe they do have a solve. They have a kid named Hannibal who's like just on the cusp of being in the midfield, and he's a kid, but he's fucking super talented.
It's too slender right now.
But who knows what happens during the duration of the season. So it's all just so temporary.
Up in the air?
It's 3 games we've seen. It's not a gamble to put Fred out there against Wolves. That wasn't a risky decision by Ole. He played like shit, but it's like Fred should have been better. That's not bad management to select him. He's been relatively predictable. He's got a ceiling. Yes, we could get better. We should get better, but I don't know. I tend not to freak out as much as everybody else is.
I'll accept your answer as it's a building block. I think the midfield's a huge problem. Brian, Mason Greenwood, what's his ceiling?
Oh man, for me he's as good or better than Mbappe, or has the potential to be.
Whoa!
I think he does. I think his finishing's better. I'm not saying he's there yet because I think Mbappe's been doing it at the highest level, Champions League in particular.
Yeah.
But when I watch Mason Greenwood's finishing, I don't see a player at that age with that sort of he's clinical. Like, he sees it, he hits it, it's right inside that post, right? Like, really, 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 really sharp finisher. And you got a player in your hands there. I think he's going to be massive player.
Like, do you think right now, because he comes in off the left, he's a left-footed player, he comes up into the right, excuse me. Do you think that right wing, like, that's why they signed Sancho, and I'm not saying Sancho's not a great player, but that right wing looks
I think
like
he's better than Sancho.
It looks like Mason Greenwood's spot to kind of lose right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would absolutely. I mean, you got depth in that position. That is you want those players competing because they're going to up their level. That's the key to winning things, is to having those competitions in big positions that and players performing because of it. And that's what we're seeing with Greenwood. And I think how old is he now? 20? Is he 20, 21?
19.
19.
He's still 19. I mean, he's been
No,
doing
he
it.
just turned 20. I think
He's been doing it for a couple of years already, though, too. So like,
No,
it's
he's
not,
still 19. You're right. Yeah.
he's a kid, right? So it's impressive. It's incredibly impressive when you see players doing that. So yeah, like I said, you guys are lucky to have him coming through your academy. You paid nothing for him too, right?
Oh yeah. Well, guys, that was the game week. The transfer window is open. We're on international break.
It's closed, not open.
It's closed. Sorry, it's closed. International break. We couldn't hate that more, but we're going to get into the transfers a little bit more on Thursday. Boys, any last thoughts?
I hate the international
worst.
break. I hate it.
Especially this first one. I don't. If they removed this one and did the one in November and didn't do this, because we just got the season started. We're getting momentum and you're just taking it away. It's annoying as hell. But yeah, we are going to try to make the best of it for you folks who are watching. We will do a transfer roundup show, full roundup of all of the sort of best and worst and what our thoughts are. Luke will be likely with us. We may even do it in the studio. We're gonna see what that looks like tomorrow to determine if it's something that's possible. But if not, we may even do the following preview show next week in the studio as well. So looking forward to that, boys. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for everybody who's watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, do all the stuff that makes it easier for us to grow the channel. And we will see you guys all on Thursday. Thanks for watching. Cheers.
This is the North